It's late August in northeastern Kentucky, and on the Ammerman family farm, that means harvest. But unlike other crops that will become food for humans or animals, the Ammermans are harvesting a crop that will literally go up in smoke. Tobacco. This year's crop of burley tobacco is destined for giant curing barns like this one on the Ammerman farm. But there have been several intermediate processes that had to take place to maximize the harvest. First, hoeing out the weeds.
We have little cultivating tractors where we cultivate one row at a time and roll the dirt in around the plants, and we either plow out or cover up a lot of the weeds. And then a lot of the weeds between the plants will have to be hoed out with just a regular garden hoe.
The next step in preparing the tobacco is a process called topping.
About 60 days after the tobacco is planted, we top it, what we call topping. Any plant, any animal's true purpose, what it was intended to do is to reproduce. So a tobacco plant's no different, so it'll put a bloom out, a flower at the top of the plant. And we don't want seed. We want leaf structure and weight. We take the flower out, we break the flower out in 3 or 4 of the top leaves.
After the tobacco plants have been topped, they must undergo another procedure called suckering.
Between the stalk and where the leaf attaches, it'll put out what we call a sucker. It'll be another little bloom that will try to reproduce and actually grow seed. So there's a chemical you can use to kill the suckers. 30 days, we consider 30 days after the day we spray for suckers is it's ready to cut.
A month after topping and suckering, the crop is now fully mature, and the time has come for harvest, or cutting.
Oh, the fella behind me here cutting, he's going to pick a stick up off the ground. He's going to put a metal spear that just comes to a needle point on top of that stick. The spear's maybe 5-6 inches long. And he has a tobacco knife or tobacco hatchet, and you're right-handed in your right hand. And he's going to cut 3 plants out his right hand row and 3 plants back his left hand row. So he cuts that plant off, picks it up, and then impales it, runs it over that spear onto that stick. It's an athletic move. It's strenuous. The key to this, you have to be determined first off, and you need to be about half mean. You need to be a pretty good athlete. You need endurance.
Yeah, I've been doing it all my life. I don't like to tell everybody that I've done it all my life, then they want me to go to the bottom reel, but I'd rather cut. You got somebody that can cut with you, you know, you can make some money.
Despite the many technological advances in the production of burley tobacco, the traditional hands-on method of harvest has resisted all efforts at automation.
This process is, nobody's found a feasible way. A machine's going to tear it up, break too many leaves off, do too much damage, bruise it. So we're stuck with the old-fashioned way, manual labor, and a lot of it.
Cut and staked, these tobacco plants will be left in the field to air dry before any further handling.
This tobacco needs to stay out for a couple of days and wilt down, because right now it's too crisp. It'll break if you handle it. If this tobacco would stay out for 2 days, we can get probably 200 or 220 sticks on a wagon load.
After being allowed to wilt in the field, it's time for the crop to be loaded onto double trailers, each carrying about 1,200 plants. These are pulled by tractors to the curing barns for the next step in the process, housing.
I don't know why they call it housing. We're putting it in the barn. But we've got wagon loads of tobacco here. We're going to bring it here to the barn and hand it up, put it on these rails, spread it out so it gets some air so it'll dry down. It's what we call curing.
There are 6 rows of tobacco racks. Each stake of tobacco plants is handed to the bottom man, who hands the stakes up to a middle man, who hands the stakes up to a top man. Each one hangs stakes on 2 racks and spreads the plants for curing.
The guy in the bottom's got the hardest job. He's having to handle every stick. This tobacco's probably weighing 50 or 60 pounds to the stick. So every stick goes through his hands, plus he's spread out, and then he has almost a full extension to reach the man above him. So actually, the guy that has the easiest job here is the guy on the top, because he's not having to push anything over his head. The problem he has, he's closer to the roof, and on a day like today, it's a lot harder.
Bottom man on the bottom rail. He's got the worstest job here. He's got to handle every stick that goes up. That's the worstest job. It pays good. That's, you know, you just can't hardly find a job, in other words. I mean, it's really hard to even try to find a job. This here, it helps a lot of people out. So.
That's the one that's got the good job.
Yeah. His job. He gets sleep while we work.
And so the process continues. Tobacco plants are cut, staked, and allowed to air dry in the field before being stacked on trailers and hauled to curing barns for housing. But even though these barns are constructed with ventilation doors to control airflow, curing a crop of burley tobacco is anything but an exact science.
This is not something that you go to school to learn. You know, I've been watching this process since I was 4 or 5 years old. And then the old guys, they remember back in 1948 this happened, in 1957 this happened, and this is what we did to solve it. And you can't always bat 1,000. You know, it's not going to come out perfect, but you know, you're always striving to get it as good as you can. And then a lot of it is, you know, out of your control. So it makes for a pretty interesting lifestyle. If your transplants are okay, if you get it in the field, it's okay. If bugs don't eat it up, if you don't have a couple different diseases, if you don't have a hailstorm, if you don't have a terrible drought, if you don't have a flood, if you have too much water, it'll drown out. If you don't have a hailstorm at the very last moment before you're getting ready to start cutting, if it doesn't dry down too fast, if it doesn't dry down at all and rots, then you'll be okay. It's a gamble. And every year's different. You're taking a chance and you hope for the best and see what happens.